It was the push seen around the world. One moment, Chennedy Carter was a rising star in the WNBA, athletic, explosive, and nearly unguardable. The next, she was being whispered about as the most radioactive player in the league. And all it took was one shove, a reckless, silent, unapologetic shove on the league's biggest superstar, Caitlin Clark. In a split second, Carter didn't just foul an opponent, she may have fouled away her future. But what happened after that push? That's where the real story begins. Because this wasn't just about emotions boiling over or a moment of frustration on the court. This was about patterns, problems, and a player whose attitude finally caught up to her. Her team didn't just fine her, they didn't just bench her, they cut her loose completely, without a single effort to keep her. And now, she's gone from leading scorer to league outcast. So what really happened behind the scenes? Why did Angel Reese unfollow her? Why won't any team touch her, even with her obvious talent? And is it already too late for Chennedy Carter to save her WNBA career? Let's break it all down. Because what happened on that court wasn't just a push, it was a warning shot, and the league heard it loud and clear. The Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever were locked in a tense, physical battle. The energy in the arena was electric. Caitlin Clark was lighting it up, draining shots, running the floor, and commanding the crowd like a veteran. But on the other side, Chennedy Carter was fuming. You could see it in her eyes. Frustration building with every possession, boiling just beneath the surface. Then it happened. Out of nowhere, Carter charged and shoved Clark to the ground. No ball in play, no warning. Just a deliberate hard hit that left the entire arena frozen in silence. Even the announcers didn't know what to say. Refs stood stunned, fans gasped, and Clark, she just stood there looking confused, like she couldn't believe someone would risk it all like that. It was an away-from-the-ball foul, but the replay made it crystal clear. This wasn't basketball. This was personal. This was a statement, and not a good one. The league didn't hesitate. They upgraded it to a flagrant foul. But that was just the beginning of what would become one of the most career-altering moments in recent WNBA history. The crowd didn't just boo. They collectively knew. Something had shifted. Something serious had just gone down. And for Chennedy Carter, that shove was the first domino to fall. After the push, most players would have tried to clean up the mess. Maybe a quick apology, a post-game explanation, anything to show a shred of regret. But Chennedy Carter, she doubled down with silence. When reporters asked her about the incident, she shut them down cold. "I'm not answering any Clark questions." That was her response. No apology, no accountability, just defiance. And that's when the public opinion turned from frustration to full-on fury. Fans wanted answers. The league wanted damage control. And Carter, she gave them nothing. Even worse, she acted like it never happened. When asked again if Caitlin Clark said anything to provoke her, Carter shrugged. "I didn't say anything. I don't know what she said." Like the whole thing was just some random blip on her radar. But the WNBA wasn't about to let this slide. Officials reviewed the footage and labeled it unnecessary and reckless. And remember, we're talking about basketball, not tackle football. A push like that isn't just dangerous. It's damaging to the league's image, especially when it's aimed at the player bringing in the biggest crowds the WNBA has seen in decades. And Carter's lack of remorse? That made it even worse, because she didn't just push a player. She pushed away an entire opportunity to save her own career. And the consequences were about to get a whole lot worse. The Chicago Sky didn't wait long to make their stance crystal clear. Chennedy Carter wasn't just benched. She wasn't disciplined behind closed doors. She was cut off completely. No core designation, no long-term contract, no offer to return. Just a cold, silent goodbye. That's practically unheard of in the WNBA. Carter was their leading scorer. You don't just let that kind of offense walk away for nothing. Unless the problems off the court are so bad, keeping her isn't worth the trouble. And if you think that was just a one-team decision, think again. Scouts at the game reportedly crossed her name off their draft boards in real time. Executives were texting each other that very night, calling her radioactive, and they weren't being dramatic. In a league where culture and chemistry matter more than ever, Carter's attitude became her biggest liability. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's stardom continued to explode. Every time her name trended, so did that video, the push. It replayed over and over online, not just as a highlight, but as a cautionary tale. One moment of poor judgment, one refusal to show remorse, and suddenly, Chennedy Carter's reputation was in free fall. But the truth is, this wasn't the first time Carter lit a match and watched everything burn. Long before the shove heard around the world, Chennedy Carter had already started building a reputation, and not the good kind. Back when she played for the Atlanta Dream, she wasn't just benched for a bad game. She was suspended mid-season for what the team called being a detriment to the team culture, and that's putting it nicely. The story goes, Carter got into a heated altercation with teammate Courtney Williams during a game. Not a simple disagreement, not a shouting match. Carter was reportedly ready to throw punches on her own teammate. And if you know anything about Courtney Williams, you know how hard that is to believe. She's widely respected, known for keeping her head down and avoiding drama. And even she had to back away from Carter's aggression. That was strike one. The Dream traded Carter to the Los Angeles Sparks, hoping a change of scenery would fix things. It didn't. She barely saw the court. Benched for what the team quietly called conduct issues. Again, strike two. The Sparks eventually let her go in the 2023 offseason, choosing to move on entirely. Another team burned, another opportunity wasted. By the time she landed with the Chicago Sky, she was already running out of second chances. And after the push, strike three came faster than anyone expected. But what made this time different was how her own teammates responded. This wasn't just front office business. This time, the backlash came from inside the locker room. You'd think that after a public firestorm, Chennedy Carter's teammates would rally around her, but instead of support, there was silence. And then, something louder than words. Angel Reese unfollowed her on social media. In the WNBA, that's not just petty drama, that's a message, a very public one. Reese and Carter were supposed to be building something together in Chicago. Young talent, fresh energy, and high expectations. But the unfollow? That was the equivalent of slamming the locker room door shut and changing the code. And it didn't stop there. Reports started surfacing that players on the Sky had pushed for Carter's removal even before the next season began. They didn't want her back. They didn't want her in practice. They didn't want her anywhere near their team. One anonymous teammate reportedly called her a locker room cancer. Think about that. Not a coach, not a media member, a fellow player. Someone who shares the court, the bus rides, the locker room. Someone who's supposed to have your back. That kind of sentiment doesn't come out of nowhere. It builds, slowly, behind closed doors, until one push turns whispers into headlines. And by then, it's too late. But here's what made everything 10 times worse. Caitlin Clark wasn't just another player. If Chennedy Carter had shoved any other player, maybe, just maybe, the fallout wouldn't have been this severe. But Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie. She's the rookie, the game changer, the face of a WNBA revolution. Let's look at the numbers. The Indiana Fever are projected to draw over 600,000 fans this season, shattering the previous WNBA attendance record by more than 200,000. That's not a coincidence. That's Clark. Her jersey? The best-selling in the league by a mile. Merchandise sales are up over 1,000% since she entered the league. And guess who's leading the charge? Caitlin Clark at number one, followed by Angel Reese and Sabrina Ionescu. She's not just filling arenas, she's rewriting what's possible for women's basketball. So when Carter shoved her, she didn't just foul a player, she fouled the league's biggest investment. She pushed against the one person who's pulling in new fans, new sponsors, new TV deals, and, frankly, new money for everyone in the league. The WNBA had been growing steadily, but Clark accelerated everything. She made the league mainstream, marketable, and must-watch. So when Carter made it personal, it became business for the WNBA. And trust me, this league knows exactly how valuable Clark is. That's why Carter's moment of aggression felt like more than a foul. It felt like she was attacking the very future of the WNBA. And that's something no team can afford to gamble on. Chennedy Carter is a free agent. Technically, she's available. But in reality, she's untouchable. And not in the good way. Not a single team has stepped forward. Not a rumor, not a whisper, not even an unsigned summer invite. Even the Golden State Valkyries, the new expansion team that could have used her scoring firepower, reportedly want nothing to do with her. And why would they? They're building a brand around chemistry, unity, and professionalism. Carter doesn't fit that image. One WNBA executive said, flat out, "I wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole." That's brutal, and it's not an isolated opinion. Word around the league is that general managers aren't even picking up the phone when her agent calls. Not because of her talent, she's still got plenty of that, but because of the baggage, the drama, the risk. It's one thing to be fiery. It's another to be known for locker room clashes, public disrespect, and repeated behavioral issues across 4 different teams. And now, even international teams are hesitating. Yes, Carter balled out in Turkey previously, but her reputation follows her everywhere. Overseas scouts are watching. They've seen the headlines. They've read the interviews. They know the story. And when your reputation starts costing you global opportunities, that's not just a red flag. That's a career in crisis. Is Chennedy Carter done for good? Maybe not, but the road back won't be easy. Because at this point, talent alone isn't enough to save her. She's going to need a full transformation, public accountability, a change in attitude, and a willingness to earn back the trust she's lost across the league. Plenty of players have made comebacks after controversy, but they had something Carter hasn't shown yet: humility. They apologized. They took responsibility. They rebuilt their reputation brick by brick. Carter? She's still silent, still deflecting, still acting like the shove was no big deal. But let's be real. This isn't just about one incident. It's about a pattern. Teams aren't just remembering the Clark shove. They're remembering the fight with Courtney Williams, the benching in LA, the silence in Chicago, the whispers in the locker room. And now, even her former teammates are distancing themselves. That doesn't happen unless something is seriously wrong behind the scenes. To claw her way back into the WNBA, Carter would have to start with a simple, honest truth. I messed up. That's it. From there, it's about showing, not just saying, that she's changed. Doing the hard work, accepting a smaller role, earning minutes the hard way. And if she doesn't, the WNBA won't wait around. Because this isn't just a game anymore, it's a business. A fast-growing, high-stakes business. And right now, Carter's drama is a liability nobody wants to inherit. But here's what makes it sting the most. She's still one of the most talented guards in the league. When she's locked in, Carter is electrifying. Quick off the dribble, fearless at the rim, capable of taking over a game. Coaches know it, scouts know it, fans know it. But none of that matters if no one wants to share a locker room with you. So the question now isn't if Chennedy Carter can come back, it's whether she wants it badly enough to change. Chennedy Carter's fall wasn't sudden. It was a slow, smoldering fire, one that finally exploded the moment she shoved Caitlin Clark. That push didn't just knock a player off balance. It shook the foundation of Carter's career and exposed everything the league had been trying to ignore. The locker room clashes, the poor conduct, the inability to grow past her own ego. And Caitlin Clark? She kept moving. She kept shooting. She kept filling arenas, breaking viewership records, and elevating the WNBA into something no one had seen before. In a way, that push became symbolic. It was one player pushing back against change, against progress, against a future she didn't realize had already arrived. Carter didn't just shove a superstar, she shoved the league's biggest opportunity to thrive. And for that, the WNBA responded with silence. No team wanted her, no teammate backed her, no second chance came knocking. She had 4 teams, she had the talent, she had every opportunity. Now she's on the outside looking in. Her story is no longer about missed shots or tough losses. It's about whether a once rising star can rise again, not just with buckets, but with humility, accountability, and a complete change of direction. Because in today's WNBA, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't play by the rules, or worse, refuse to play well with others, you don't get to be part of the future.